Picture this. You're in a meeting presenting a data analysis that could save your company hundreds of thousands of dollars. Your boss interrupts you mid-sentence and says, "You know what would make this presentation better? If you smiled more. You look so serious." Now picture this. 6 months later, you're sitting in a conference room watching that same boss get fired, and you're the reason why. And yes, you're smiling. That's exactly what happened to me. My boss told me to smile more instead of taking my work seriously, so I took my documentation of his behavior very seriously instead. And when HR finally called him in for his termination meeting, I made sure I was there, and I smiled the entire time. My name is Zoe Harper. I'm 31 years old, engaged, and I'm a software engineer at Infinity Tech Solutions in Austin. This is the story of how a sexist boss learned that some women smile best when watching karma do its work. Before I tell you how I took down my terrible boss, if you're enjoying stories about workplace justice and people getting what they deserve, hit that subscribe button. I share stories like this one, where toxic bosses, unfair treatment, and workplace injustice get exactly the consequences they've earned. Trust me, this story is just getting started, and you won't want to miss how it ends. Let me give you the setup. Infinity Tech Solutions is a mid-sized software company, about 120 employees, that builds custom applications for enterprise clients. I'd been there for 2 years as a software engineer, working on complex back-end systems that kept our clients' operations running smoothly. I was good at my job, really good. I had a reputation for solving problems that other engineers couldn't crack, for writing clean code that actually worked, and for delivering projects on time and under budget. My performance reviews were consistently excellent. Then Derek Anderson became my team lead. Derek was 43, had been with the company for 5 years, and was recently been promoted to lead our engineering team. He was technically competent, he could code, he understood systems architecture, but he was absolutely terrible at managing people. Specifically, he was terrible at managing women. Our team was 8 engineers, 5 men, 3 women, including me, and from day one, Derek treated us differently. It started with small things, comments that individually seemed minor, but together created a pattern. In meetings, Derek would interrupt the women on our team mid-sentence, but let the men finish their thoughts. He'd ask the male engineers technical questions, but ask the female engineers to take notes or schedule the follow-up meeting. When I'd propose a technical solution, Derek would say things like, "That's an interesting idea, Zoe. Let me run it by Marcus and see what he thinks." Marcus was a junior engineer who'd been there 6 months less than me. But Derek needed a man's validation before considering my technical judgment. The "smile more" comment happened in my 3rd month working under Derek. I was presenting a code review analysis showing inefficiencies in our deployment process. I had data, metrics, and specific recommendations that could cut our deployment time by 40%. Derek interrupted halfway through. "Zoe, you're giving us a lot of technical information, which is great, but you know what would make this presentation more engaging? If you smiled more. You look so serious and tense. Try to lighten up a bit." The room went silent. Every engineer there, including the men, looked uncomfortable. "I'm presenting technical analysis of our deployment process," I said carefully. "I'm not sure how my facial expressions affect the data. I'm just saying people respond better to presenters who seem approachable and friendly. You come across as kind of intense and unapproachable. A smile would help." I didn't smile. I finished my presentation with the same serious, professional expression I'd use for any technical discussion, because I was doing serious, professional work. But that comment stuck with me, not because it hurt my feelings. I didn't care if Derek thought I smiled enough. It stuck with me because it was such a blatant example of how he treated women differently than men. Derek had never told Marcus to smile more during his presentations. He'd never criticized Ryan's facial expressions or suggested that James needed to be more approachable. Over the next few months, the pattern became impossible to ignore. Derek assigned the women on our team less challenging projects, saying he didn't want to overwhelm us. Meanwhile, the male engineers got the complex, high-visibility work that led to promotions and recognition. He scheduled important technical discussions during times he knew I had standing commitments, then acted disappointed when I couldn't attend. I thought this project was a priority for you, Zoe. He questioned my technical decisions constantly, asking me to justify choices that he'd accept without question from male team members. Are you sure that's the best approach? Have you thought about... Obvious thing I'd obviously considered. And the comments about appearance and demeanor continued. You should dress more professionally for client meetings. I dressed identically to my male colleagues. Try to be more collaborative and less competitive. Translation, stop disagreeing with him in meetings. You need to work on your communication style. It comes across as aggressive. Translation, stop being confident about my technical expertise. Sophia Williams, one of the other female engineers, pulled me aside after a particularly frustrating team meeting. Is it just me, or does Derek treat us completely differently than the guys? It's not just you. He's been doing it since day one. What do we do about it? Document everything, I said. Every comment, every instance of different treatment. If there's a pattern, we need evidence. We started keeping detailed records. Dates, times, exact quotes, witnesses. Every time Derek interrupted us in meetings. Every time he gave us less challenging work. Every time he made comments about our appearance or demeanor that he'd never make to male engineers. The incident that finally pushed me to take action happened during a major client presentation in June. We were presenting a new system architecture to one of our biggest clients, a project I'd led from conception through design. I'd spent 3 months developing the architecture, testing different approaches, and creating a solution that was elegant, scalable, and cost-effective. Derek was supposed to introduce the project, and then I'd walk through the technical details. That was the plan. But when we got to the presentation, Derek just kept talking. He presented the architecture as if he'd designed it. He explained technical decisions he hadn't made. He answered client questions about code he hadn't written. I sat there, silent, while Derek took credit for 3 months of my work. After the meeting, the client, a CTO named Lisa Anderson, pulled me aside. Zoe, I have a question about the database scaling approach. Can you explain your thinking there? Sure, I started, relieved to finally discuss my actual work. Derek interrupted. I'd be happy to explain that, Lisa. I asked Zoe. She designed this system, right? It was a team effort, but I provided the strategic direction. Derek, I've been a CTO for 15 years. I know the difference between someone who designed a system and someone who's reading slides. Zoe, please continue. I explained my approach. Lisa asked intelligent follow-up questions. I answered all of them because I'd actually done the work. After Lisa left, Derek pulled me into a conference room. That was inappropriate, Zoe. When a client asks a question, you need to let senior leadership handle it. You made me look bad. Lisa specifically asked me. She wanted to hear from the person who designed the system. And you should have deferred to me as team lead. That's how professional hierarchy works. You took credit for my work. I presented our team's work. There's a difference. No, Derek, you presented my work as if you designed it. You answered questions about architecture decisions you didn't make. That's not presenting teamwork, that's stealing credit. Derek's expression hardened. I think you need to reconsider your attitude, Zoe. This kind of confrontational behavior isn't going to help your career here. Maybe take some time to think about whether you're really a team player. That was a threat. Not a subtle one. I left that meeting and immediately documented everything. Then I reached out to Sophia and our other female colleague, Grace Martinez, and asked if they'd experienced similar issues. They had, extensively. Sophia had been passed over for a promotion in favor of a less experienced male engineer. When she asked Derek why, he said she needed to work on her leadership presence. Grace had been removed from a high-profile project midway through, with Derek saying he was concerned about her ability to handle the pressure. The project was reassigned to a male engineer who promptly struggled with it and had to ask Grace for help. We compared notes and realized Derek had been systematically undermining every woman on the team while promoting and praising the male engineers, regardless of actual performance or competence. "We need to report this," Sophia said. "This is textbook gender discrimination." "We need evidence first," I said. "HR won't act on vague complaints about different treatment. We need documentation, patterns, and specific examples." We spent 2 weeks compiling everything. A spreadsheet showing project assignments by gender with complexity ratings for each project, documentation of Derek's comments to each of us with dates and witnesses, performance reviews showing that we consistently rated as high as or higher than male team members, yet received fewer promotions and opportunities, email threads showing Derek taking credit for our work, meeting notes showing interruption patterns. The women on our team were interrupted an average of 7 times per meeting. The men averaged 1.5 interruptions. We also reached out to Lisa Anderson, the client CTO from the presentation incident. She agreed to provide a statement about Derek's behavior and her impression of who had actually designed the system. We requested a meeting with Ryan Chen, our HR director, all 3 of us, together. "Thank you for meeting with us," I started. "We're here to file a formal complaint about gender discrimination and hostile work environment created by our team lead, Derek Anderson." Ryan's expression became very serious very quickly. "That's a significant allegation. Can you walk me through the specifics?" We presented everything: the spreadsheets, the documented comments, the performance data, the pattern of different treatment. By the time we finished, we'd been talking for over 2 hours. Ryan reviewed the documentation carefully. "This is extensive. You've documented a clear pattern of discriminatory behavior. I need to ask, have any of you raised these concerns with Derek directly?" I confronted him about taking credit for my work, I said. He told me I needed to reconsider my attitude and think about whether I'm a team player. That was 2 weeks ago. And since then, he's been cold and distant. He's stopped assigning me to any meaningful projects. I think he's retaliating for pushing back. Ryan nodded, still taking notes. "All right, this requires a formal investigation. I'll need to interview Derek, other team members, and potentially some of your clients. During the investigation, I want to separate you from Derek's direct management to prevent any perception of retaliation. You'll temporarily report directly to the CTO. Is that acceptable?" "Yes," we all agreed. "I need to be transparent with you. Investigations like this take time, usually 4 to 6 weeks. I'll be thorough and fair. If the investigation confirms what you've documented, there will be consequences, but I can't promise specific outcomes before I've completed my review." "We understand," I said. "We just want fair treatment. That's all we've ever wanted." The next month was tense. Ryan interviewed everyone on our team, plus several people from other departments who'd worked with Derek. He reviewed email communications, meeting recordings, and project assignment histories. Derek was placed on paid administrative leave during the investigation, standard procedure, but it meant the team operated without him for a month. And you know what? We were more productive than we'd been in the entire year he'd been our lead. Ryan also interviewed our clients, including Lisa Anderson. She apparently gave a scathing assessment of Derek's competence and credibility after the presentation incident. The male engineers on our team were interviewed too. To their credit, several of them confirmed the pattern we documented. Marcus, the junior engineer Derek always deferred to, admitted that he'd been uncomfortable with how often Derek dismissed my technical input in favor of asking his opinion. Zoe knows way more than I do. It was weird that Derek kept acting like my input was more valuable than hers. I thought maybe it was just his management style was not great, but after you started asking questions, I realized it was only women he treated that way. Ryan called us back into his office 5 weeks after our initial complaint. Our CTO, Michael Chambers, was also there. "I've completed my investigation," Ryan said. "I want to share my findings with you before we proceed with next steps." He opened a thick folder. Based on interviews with 14 employees, review of project assignment data, analysis of meeting recordings, and examination of email communications, I've found clear evidence of gender-based discrimination in Derek Anderson's management practices. He listed the findings. Statistically significant pattern of assigning less complex projects to female engineers compared to male engineers, with equivalent or lower performance and experience ratings. Documented pattern of interrupting, questioning, and undermining female team members at rates significantly higher than male team members. Multiple instances of appearance-based and demeanor-based comments directed exclusively at female employees. Taking credit for work performed by female engineers, specifically in client presentations and leadership meetings. Retaliatory behavior toward Zoe after she confronted him about credit theft. Additionally, Ryan continued, during my interviews with Derek, his explanations for his behavior and decision-making were inconsistent and, in several cases, contradicted by documentary evidence. His claim that project assignments were based purely on skill set was directly contradicted by performance review data. Michael Chambers spoke up. To be clear, this isn't about difference of opinion or management style. This is about discriminatory treatment that violates both company policy and employment law. We take this extremely seriously. What happens now? Sophia asked. Derek Anderson's employment with Infinity Tech Solutions is being terminated effective immediately, Michael said. We're also implementing mandatory anti-discrimination training for all managers, revising our promotion and project assignment processes to include additional oversight, and creating a more robust system for employees to report concerns without fear of retaliation. Adding to that, Ryan added, we're also offering each of you the opportunity to work with an executive coach, if you're interested, to help rebuild after working in a hostile environment, and we'd like to discuss compensation adjustments to account for the opportunities you were denied under Derek's management. Here's the part where I get to smile. Michael asked if we wanted to be present when Derek was informed of his termination. It's not standard procedure, but given that his behavior directly affected you, and given that part of restorative justice is making wrongdoing visible, we're offering you the option to attend if you want. Sophia and Grace declined. They wanted to move forward, not rehash the experience. But I said yes. I wanted Derek to know that his behavior had consequences. I wanted him to understand that the women he'd dismissed, interrupted, and undermined had been the ones who documented his misconduct and brought it to light. The meeting was in a conference room on Thursday at 2 p.m. Michael Chambers, Ryan Chen from HR, Derek, and me. Derek walked in and saw me sitting there. His expression went from confusion to understanding to anger in about 3 seconds. "Why is she here?" he asked, gesturing at me. "Zoe has been invited to attend this meeting," Michael said calmly. "Please sit down, Derek." Derek sat, his jaw tight. "Derek, we've completed the investigation into allegations of gender discrimination in your management practices. The findings show clear evidence of discriminatory behavior, including unequal project assignments, undermining female team members, taking credit for their work, and retaliatory conduct. Effective immediately, your employment with Infinity Tech Solutions is terminated." Derek's face went red. "This is insane. I've been with this company for 5 years. During which you created a hostile work environment for female employees," Michael said calmly. "We have extensive documentation, Derek. This isn't debatable." "This is because I pushed back on Zoe's attitude problem." "No," I said quietly. All 3 men turned to look at me. "This is because you told me to smile more instead of taking my technical expertise seriously. This is because you gave complex projects to less experienced male engineers while assigning me documentation work. This is because you took credit for systems I designed and presented them as your own work.
This is because you systematically undermined every woman on our team while promoting mediocre men. Derek stared at me. You did this. You went to HR and I documented your behavior. So did Sophia and Grace. We gave HR facts, dates, witnesses, and evidence. HR did an investigation. This is the consequence of your actions, Derek, not mine. Michael handed Derek a termination letter and a box containing his personal items from his desk. Security will escort you out. You have no further access to company systems or facilities. Derek stood up, furious and humiliated. As he walked toward the door, he turned back one more time. You're going to regret this, Zoe. I smiled, a big, genuine smile, the kind of smile Derek had told me to have more of. Actually, Derek, I've never felt better about anything in my entire career. That was 4 months ago. I'm now the lead engineer for our team, the position Derek used to hold. Sophia was promoted to senior engineer. Grace is leading a major new project that's exactly the kind of complex, high-visibility work Derek used to give exclusively to men.
Our team is more productive, more collaborative, and significantly happier. Turns out, when you remove a toxic manager who creates a hostile environment, people do better work. I also got a 22% raise, partially for the promotion and partially as compensation for the opportunities I was denied while Derek was systematically discriminating against me. As for Derek, I heard through the industry grapevine that he's struggling to find a new position. Apparently, terminated for gender discrimination isn't a great thing to have on your employment record. Several companies have called Michael for references, and Michael's been honest about why Derek was fired. The best part? Remember Lisa Anderson, the client CTO? Her company hired us for 3 additional projects, and she specifically requested that I lead all of them. I want to work with the engineer who actually designs these systems, she told Michael, not the guy who takes credit for other people's work. Here's what I learned. Document everything. Every inappropriate comment, every instance of discriminatory treatment, every time your boss takes credit for your work. Keep dates, keep witnesses, keep evidence. And when the system actually works, when HR takes your complaint seriously and holds people accountable, make sure you're there to see it. Make sure the person who told you to smile more sees you smiling when they face consequences for their actions. My boss told me to smile more. I smiled in his termination meeting, and I've been smiling every day since. My name is Zoe Harper. I'm the lead engineer at Infinity Tech Solutions, and I'm living proof that sometimes justice tastes sweet enough to make you smile. If you enjoyed this story about workplace justice and seeing toxic bosses get what they deserve, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. I share real stories of corporate revenge, workplace karma, and people who fought back against unfair treatment and won. Hit that subscribe button because, trust me, there are plenty more stories where this one came from, and they all end with the right people smiling.